Boyfriend, 31M, thinks he's a good photographer but he's not really.
Hey everyone, I'd really appreciate any advice or perspective on an issue that's been bothering me a lot. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal compared to other issues on our relationships. But nonetheless, any opinions are welcome. My sweet BF of 5 years unfortunately thinks he's good at photography when he's not really. I know photography is a subjective thing. Some people think Lomo photography looks great. Some want their photos VSCO to death. Some want something a little more true to form. But there are some photos that people see and kinda go, that's a bad photo. And unfortunately, that's how his photos are. There's a few reasons for this. He's very concrete about the numbers and equipment in photography. He seems to legitimately think bad photos look good. A few of our friends have recently gotten married and they've all had really innocuous modern style wedding photos, but he's been wildly critical of all of them for really concrete reasons. For example, a friend's reception photos had cleared been warmed up slightly post-production because she was in a venue with fairly harsh office-style fluoro lights. So the photos were made slightly warmer to make everything look a bit cozier. But my BF was like, these colors are inaccurate and not true to life. Or another photo where the photographer had opened the aperture to focus on the couple and the background crowd of guests were blurry. He pointed out that the background crowd wasn't in focus. When I said I think that's the point, my BF thought I was insane. Or there was another arty-style black and white photo where the wedding couple had their foreheads pressed together, and the photographer had shot it so the couple were a black silhouette against a light archway. My BF was critical of the photographer for not using a fill flash to light up the couple. He doesn't seem to understand artistic choices in photography at all. He's super sensitive about his photography. He has other hobbies which he's extremely good at. For example, building PCS and woodworking. He also engages in these hobbies way more, like every week, than photography, which literally, he's engaged in like once in our relationship together in 5 years. But if you ask him what his hobbies are, he says photography first, and if you mention the other stuff, he says he just dabbles in them. You can also give him opinions and suggestions on the PCS and carpentry and he doesn't get upset at all. But any differing opinions on photography make him very upset. It's like his whole sense of personal worth is tied in with being a photographer, and I don't get why. Because it's become really obvious that we don't agree on photography. We've both taken an agree to disagree stance on this. He initially gave a ton of unsolicited advice every time I took a photo. He's backed off now when we decided we have different opinions on the matter. But the issue is, for all of our shared memory photos, like for our holidays, or when we got our first dog, because he thinks he's very good at taking photos and it's very important to him, he takes over the process. We've got all these really fairly ugly photos of our important times together. And it makes me really sad. I feel really embarrassed when I look at them. For one of our holidays together, he asked why I didn't share any of the photos on social media. And I didn't have the heart to tell him why. I showed a few of my friends privately and they all agreed that the photos were really bad. On one hand, I don't think it's right for me to say, your photos are bad, because like I said, it's a subjective thing. And we'd just end up arguing over what counts as a bad photo because we don't agree on this. He also legitimately doesn't seem to see why everyone else sees, so it's a losing battle. But on the other hand, it's really hard for me to keep pretending he's a good photographer when he's not. Any advice or thoughts appreciated. TLDR, BF thinks he's a great photographer. Seems to have different photographic artistic tastes to the rest of the world, and it's driving me a little nuts. The first thing you can do is stop letting him take over, photographing all your important moments. I mean, let him take what pictures he wants. But you also get to take photos yourself, the way you want. His photos aren't instead of your photos. They're in addition to your own photos. Since you have different preferred styles of photographs, you don't have to tell him his pictures suck. Just tell him you want some photos your way, or in your style, too, or whatever. Make it about your differing photographic style preferences, not about the quality of his photography.
Sometimes it is hard to take advice from loved ones where advice from a stranger or expert may be well received. Have you thought about taking a photography course together and let the instructor give the advice instead of you? You might also learn a few new tricks too.
It makes a huge amount of sense that his other hobbies are building PCs and woodworking. It seems like he's approaching photography exactly the same way he approaches these other hobbies. But obviously what he's missing is that photography is more art than science. More heart and brain. It seems like he's trying to use photography to capture reality in a very precise, analytical way, but he doesn't understand the emotion that comes as part of it. This is probably going to be a bit cruel, but you can suggest to him to post some of his best work on a photography subreddit to get more objective feedback. Let Reddit be the bearer of bad news. While studying graphic design, I also worked part-time at a pretty big camera store. It was pretty interesting seeing what different people thought was good photography and what was bad photography. I definitely came across a lot of people like your BF that's very technical about gear and specific camera settings and completely forget about composition, etc. With that being said, does your BF have photographers he really look up to? A photographer or style he likes to mimic? Is there certain things he likes taking photos of? Photography is such a broad field. Just cause you're good at taking architecture shots doesn't mean you'd be good for portraits. You could suggest joining camera clubs, and they usually do shoots together of various subjects. Probably good for him to be exposed to other photographers and also being critiqued by someone else.
I really want to see these photos.
There is a lot of weird hang-up to unpack here, but the biggest thing that stood out to me is that he has no issues rudely criticizing your pictures and bossily taking over everything. But you ask strangers on the internet for advice because you feel wrong saying, "I don't like that," to him. This isn't a healthy balance in your relationship. Clearly, you're the one not being a douche. But letting him treat you so rudely and take over things isn't a good way to handle conflict in a relationship. Not to sound cliché, but you need to clearly and firmly communicate the issue. You don't need to stoop to his level of being rude, but clearly explain that he can have his own artistic style and that's fine, but it's fine for other people to have theirs. And you quite like other styles, as do many people. That he seems obsessive not about photography itself, but obsessed with proving he's better and smarter than everybody else and that what they are doing is wrong, which is not only unnecessary and rude, but fundamentally misunderstanding the point of art and frankly just exhausting to be around. That he's welcome to take whatever pictures he wants, but so will you, and just as you wouldn't rudely criticize his pictures, you expect him to stop doing so to you. Stop pretending he's a good photographer. That helps no one. Your new line is, I don't love that one. Him, why didn't he post any of the pictures I took? You, oh, I didn't love those. And then just let him feel bad. He'll feel bad. He wants you to like his photos. But it's okay that you don't. And he'll live. Resist the urge to retract your words. Him, are you saying I'm a bad photographer? You, I didn't love those photos. But I love you very much. What do you want to watch tonight? Your new mood is breezy, but matter of fact. You don't love his photos. That's it. It's not a big deal. It's just how life is. Just don't lie, basically. See also, and I don't really feel like getting into it right now. Him. Look how the background is blurry. That's incorrect technique. You. Huh. Him. What does that mean? Do you agree? You. I just don't really feel like getting into it right now. Remember, he is free to take photos. You are free to not discuss photography with him if it's not fun for you. I disagree with commenters who suggested getting him a photography book or trying to improve his photography. That will not be fun for either of you. And take your own pictures when you want to. Him. But I already took a picture of that. You. Great. Him. So why are you taking a picture of it? You. Because I want to. I agree with other commenters that he's approaching photography the way he approached computers. By learning technical facts. And he's clueless about widespread artistic conventions. Everyday stuff that the average person already knows just from looking at everyday photos. So he's a little behind the average person. He doesn't take photos that look good to the average person. But he's convinced he should be ahead of the average person. It's frankly not a great look for him. But it's also not your job to figure it all out for him. It may come to the point where he vocalizes that belief directly. In which case it's your call how blunt you want to be. Him. I just don't understand why you keep taking photos when I'm the photographer. You. Oh, because I want to. You. I don't think your photos are better than mine. Even. You. I actually like my photos more. If you choose to tell the whole truth, you like your photos more than his. Whatever you do, don't walk it back. You can say of course he can keep taking photos. He can. You can say of course you think he's brilliant. If you do. But the simple fact is that you do not like his photography. And you do like your own. That's just how it is. And you don't need to feel bad about it. If photo brings him joy, it does not. Then encourage him to continue. Without lying to him. And while continuing to take your own photos. If photo does not bring him joy, which, clearly it does not, you already know that, he sounds absolutely miserable, then it's still not your job to stop him from taking photos or to help him to be a good photographer. Unless that were a really fun activity for you as a couple. It is not. Just let him do his thing and you do yours. But you don't have to feel pressured to have boring discussions with him. And you don't have to feel pressured to lie. I hope you don't mind me asking, but is he autistic? It might explain a little about how he thinks about it. There was another arty-style black and white photo where the wedding couple had their foreheads pressed together, and the photographer had shot it so the couple were a black silhouette against a light archway. My BF was critical of the photographer for not using a fill flash to light up the couple. He doesn't seem to understand artistic choices in photography at all. Maybe it's the gin I had at dinner. But I can't stop laughing at your boyfriend's inability to understand artistic intention or visual storytelling. Please take him to an art museum and report back his commentary. Picasso. What a terrible artist. That is very clearly not what people look like. Quote, I am really interested to hear it exactly how his photos are bad. Off-center. Subject out of focus or obscured. Finger over the lens. If his photos are at a permanent Dutch angle for no reason, then tell him that you'd like photos that are level. If his photos are too close to the subject, tell him you'd like a photo where the subject is far back enough to be seen. Given his complete lack of understanding regarding artistic license, maybe he is more interested in documentary photography. But I think the big question is, why does he want to be seen as a photographer? It's one thing to dabble in it, or whatever it is your boyfriend is doing. But it's another thing to make this the thing people know about you. Why does he rank his photography over his PC building or his woodworking? Why does he want to be a photographer? Or want people to know he's a photographer? I think this is the real question. I would try to stay as far away as you can from the larger issue of if he's a good photographer. Not. He obviously loves it, and you don't want to be responsible for crushing his dreams unless you're the editor of a photography magazine he's submitting to or something. Just be generically supportive and positive. Maybe someday he will find people with his same taste who all love his work. Or maybe he'll get discouraged on his own. But either way, it shouldn't come from his partner. Focus just on the issue that's personal to you, of having photos you like of your important moments. Stop letting him take over all the photos. Tell him things like, I know it's really important to you to take these photos, but it's also really important to me that I have some pictures from my perspective. I know you have a fancy camera, but this would be a great selfie. Let me just snap one with my phone real quick. If you're in public, without asking them first, just go up to a stranger and ask them to take a pic of you with your phone. He already knows you prefer a different style, so just start asserting yourself and reminding him that he can take the photos he wants and you can take the ones you want. I want to see the photo so bad, cold sweat smile. You should tell him maybe that his style is not your favorite, and when you take photos for important events you should each have a shot at it. Like you should both have your turn taking photos so that you can still have photographed that you like. Or maybe you could offer to your BF a photography class so that he can compare his style and photos with other photographers. Simple. Tell him to post his top 3 photos here on Reddit, and let us decide. He might have a small breakdown, but sometimes the truth hurts. Or maybe his photos really are good. It's really not subjective though. Photography is something you can be legitimately good or bad at, just like drawing or knitting. So stop hitting yourself over the head with that. If he doesn't understand things like varying focus, he's obviously not that great. However, that's not something you have to tell him. I guess you could offer him some indirect help by getting him some books of techniques or something. But as others have said, his skill isn't the main issue here. You really just need to not let him take over all the time. Even if he was a world-renowned master photographer, that still wouldn't be a reason you shouldn't be allowed to take family pictures. Professional chefs don't chase their partners out the kitchen. Nannies don't raise their own children alone. Priests don't disallow their partners to pray. Your BF needs to let you take pictures as much as you want, whether or not he's a photographer. And maybe I really like taking pictures is a better argument than you're not good at taking pictures and will keep the peace better. But have no doubt that it's super weird that he insists on having this hobby but also refuses to learn how to do it. Encourage him to post his best work online for anonymous critique. Gift him a class or workshop where a famous photographer will give him feedback. Respect his creative expression, but also take photos for yourself. It sounds like you take photos for different reasons. You like to capture the emotion of the event and make the photo look nice. He likes to perfectly document the moment as it was. Those are different standards and neither is objectively better. Although both you and he seem to be stuck on being the better one, you should just accept you have different standards, which it sounds like you've done already, and then start taking photos for different reasons. Appreciate how well he captures the moment exactly as it is, and then take your own photos to capture the beauty and emotion in the way you like it. You can both enjoy your own version of the photos. It doesn't really matter if the rest of the world likes your photos or his photos or both or neither. Photos are for the benefit of the people who take them. If he won't let you take your own photos, that's a completely separate issue. Not allowing your partner to do things is domineering and not conducive to a healthy relationship. Putting your partner down for doing things they enjoy is also bad for your relationship. So try to limit that. And try to limit how much he does that to you, too. Honestly, just ask, hey, we both should go to some professional photography classes. He seems passionate, and I would not see him turning that down, especially if you went with him and showed interest, and it might be a fun little thing for both of you. I feel really embarrassed when I look at them. It is unlikely his are worst as mine or most people's. Really. We just snap a thing and don't care. So I think on this point, emo, you probably can just share them without claiming they are best thing ever. It is memory. It is not artistic expression. For the rest, when he is trying to take over all picture making, insist that you like taking photo too and want to have fun too. You can also say that you have different taste and want own pic for that reason too. Agree to disagree thing. When he is criticizing yours, reiterate, we already agreed to disagree about different taste here. I like this, for the most part, for some obscure reason. It is likely identity issue for him. To some extent I understand. You want to think about yourself as the kind of person that does X, and the fact that you actually don't do it as often does not changes that. It is not that uncommon. Really. Although he takes it a bit to the next level. You don't need to explain him that he is a bad photographer. People are allowed to like things they are bad at, and generally we just nod and move on with our days. You should take a bit control in situations that make you resentful, however. Also, consider gifting him book on photography composition or something at right occasion. But not right after heated discussion about photos. Sometimes when it won't be charged with you sucks and will make him happy. Don't lie to him. Don't give your opinion, but if he asks, be honest. Make sure he doesn't take over occasions to take photos, but that you get an equal opportunity to take photos too. If you don't use any of his and he asks, tell him you prefer your photos. He asks why. Tell him why. He seems to have a crazy blind spot both in terms of what a hobby is, generally not something you do once a year, and how he is at it. Strange he can't look objectively at his photos or accept criticism, when he can in his actual hobbies. He seems to have some strange immaturity on this specific thing. I wouldn't play along. I am in a similar circumstance. My husband has written and self-published a couple novels and would love to quit his job and be an author. My professional expertise is in publishing, and I know what type of writing will likely be popular. His writing is not good. I even had one of my colleagues edit one of my husband's novels, and it turned out great. But my husband rejected it, saying it didn't convey his style anymore. I know this is his dream and I should support him as a wife, but I just don't. Then I feel guilty because I don't support his dream. I just try not to talk about his writing, and suggest other avenues for his ideas. I hate this.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.